next thing we have on our agenda is the border energy contract.
I'm sorry, I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Go ahead, Tom.
I want you to know I did miss you attending our January 17th meeting, which you told me you would be there when we met with travelers. And you also notice I withheld after we approved your contract. And rest assured, we have a full-time person that answers the phone, and I really deeply would appreciate a phone call when I know you're not going to attend, because we could have had some legal information there.
That's the first mistake I made in 2013. I apologize. I did say I was going to be there, and I didn't do it. I'm not kidding.
We did have, just to report, we did have a very good meeting with travelers, Mr. Steve Tobler, your choice, and he seemed to be pleased with the new things we're going to put into effect with checking CDL license, with recording of signs, recording of when accidents happen, don't happen, and things. So we're still working on some of those, and I'm going to suggest when we get everything down, all those forms would be forwarded to you in case anything comes up. You can say, hey, this is what they have in place, don't have. So.
Thank you. Did he have any general pet peeve with counties, government, on what could be done to make anything better? Was it just
Well, our two
things here?
biggest claims are workman's comp, of course, but you have to remember we had the one large one, 432,000 workman's comp, but then on the 3 years that he showed us, that would only average out to a little less than 75,000 a year, I think, on that, which I didn't think would be too bad for workman's comp for as many as we have. And then the second one was the auto insurance collision and things, and I think Glenn LaRue worked on that with the Sheriff's Department, and we're working on that, even as far as maybe having to send some of our drivers to driver training. They are working with the New Haven Police Department, I believe, to set up a program for drivers training. And I don't know, 3 or 4 were you on board when we donated that old sheriff's car to New Haven? We had a deputy's car, and they wanted to know if we would give that to them so they could use it. So we went over that, and I think Mark Hodges said that's still in the deal. So we are, and his end report of that day seemed to be very satisfying. Wouldn't you say, Pam?
Okay,
Yes,
yeah. Did he say anything about policies regarding chases or high-speed responses, emergency responses?
The only thing we talked about speed was I brought up the fact that the committee, made up of 5 or 6, Mike Barton, Tim Blake, Mark Gatton, Pam, myself, was Jan there, I think, Dave Sewell from the planning, people that have cars within their department. The only thing we brought up, if we should differentiate between emergency vehicles who are going fast compared to an accident with someone driving from our health department or planning department where they're not going fast. He didn't seem to have a problem with that, but.
Well, here's the reason I asked the question. I just did before Christmas a grand jury up in Allen County as a special prosecutor. This is a potentially criminal, not a civil case.
We talked about that.
Okay, and the officer was responding, lights and siren down DuPont Road, to an accident scene in which there was supposedly a trapped passenger. Was going too fast on DuPont, didn't make the light he thought he was going to make, and he T-boned some poor guy and killed him. And I do know that, not that a different policy would have changed what happened there at all, but I know their sheriff's department did then change the policy, or their board did change the policy to say that once you're advised that there's another responder, you're not authorized to drive lights and siren anymore. The same statute that authorizes police to drive at fast speeds to respond is the one that authorizes ambulance drivers and any other emergency responders, fire departments, they're all covered in the same civil statute. It was just interesting, and I thought, that's something that I ought to bring back and maybe mention that maybe Mark wants to look at his policies regarding those situations, just to make sure he's got policies in place. That's all.
I think that's
We
a great
did.
idea.
And one of the other things we talked about, we had a very distinguished gentleman that covered the sexual harassment for our employees. He thought that was great, or for our department heads, sooner or later to be for our employees. He thought that was good that we do that, and so we'll welcome you back again when it gets to that point. But
Yeah, we should probably do that like every 3 years or every 2 years or something, like some kind of schedule. And we still have to do the employees. Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead.
will that presentation be any different than what you presented to our department heads?
Yes, a little bit different. The first part would be the same as just kind of explain the law, but then you're reversing the perspective to say if something is happening to you, we want to protect you. This is what we want to do, not what do you do when you get it, but what do you do when it happens to you, and let them know that there's a policy and procedure. Let them know we want to protect them, and let them know it will be responded to immediately if they report it. Then you're supporting your underlying policy, which will be very important in the event any future claim or suit is made. So it'll be a little different, but it'll be the same material, but just from a different perspective.
Last question for you. On that case you were just talking about, he brought that up because Travelers also has Allen County covered.
Okay.
On it, so
Right.
he said he was aware of it. They found that officer not guilty.
They found that he wasn't reckless. They found that his decision was not reckless in the sense that when he made the decision that he thought he could make the light, it was the wrong decision. That doesn't remove him from civil liability, but that he didn't do it recklessly, disregard for the consequences. And that's the difference between civil and criminal.
He'll still be sued.
Yeah, they are
Civil-
sued.
Oh, yeah.
They are sued.
In a
and
civil court, absolutely, yeah.
In fact, I think Mr. Whitley is supposed to mediate that case in
And
a
this
couple
was
weeks.
just, the one you did was simply a criminal case.
Criminal, was it criminal or wasn't it? Yeah. And
Okay,
they found,
thank
they found he wasn't
Yeah.
reckless.
Nothing more from me, Mr. Chairman.
Deanna, have you seen, I've lost touch with this one, have you seen a contract from the Humane Shelter?
Yes, yeah, I do have that. I don't know where it is right now, but I have it.
Well, here's what I wanted to say. So at the council meeting, I'm pretty sure I'm right, they approved our seating plan, right?
Yes.
Some of the questions, and we need to talk about this, we need to talk about the nuts and bolts of this, and that is how are we gonna pay for the services? All we've got right now is a commitment for not to exceed $25,000 or $108 per animal from the county, not to exceed a total of $25,000 for the year. In other words, what I'm saying is, I saw the contract Lindsay gave us, but quite frankly, it was cumbersome. I don't, that's way too much contract in my way of thinking. We need to establish that we're gonna pay $108 per animal, not to exceed, whatever the math is, we're not gonna exceed $25,000 in 2013. And how are we gonna pay them?
Right. Here's my thought, just for discussion, but maybe, and I would agree with you, a contract obligates the county. Why obligate the county? You're kind of doing this to some degree, obviously it's a benefit to the county, but it's a supportive thing too. So perhaps have a page and a half memorandum of understanding, and then let them submit claims on a monthly basis, not to exceed, and then and have a methodology for them verifying their claims with invoices describing why they're entitled on that animal to say it's a county animal. I mean, that's what
My only concern is what does the State Board of Accounts want to see from us that allows us to pay the Whitley County Humane Shelter money? That's all. If they can get by with a memorandum of understanding, so be it.
You know, that's a good
So be it.
question. I can march over there, you know, they're down under they're at City Hall there. I can contact this.
Oh, are
contact
you
this-
sure? I heard they moved to Huntington.
Oh, did they move to Huntington?
Anybody know?
I heard they were going to,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
heard
if they
that.
have or not.
Yeah.
Okay,
But be prepared. It may not be there. I think they.
surely they have a local phone number still, don't they, or maybe
I'm
not?
not sure. Jen
Okay.
knows.
Yeah.
Because
I'll
their phone
call
number
Jan.
was the city of Columbia City phone number.
All right, well, I stand corrected, and are they gonna be in for an audit anytime?
Yeah, but they didn't give a specific date, they just said it within the first quarter.
Well, let me know if they come in the next week or two, but otherwise, I'll just call them. I know a couple of those guys, but that's a good I think, yeah, because
I just
you
wanna
run the
make sure-
risk if you don't talk to them, they'll say you're doing it the wrong way, so, yeah, that's a good point.
So I think, gosh, do you remember the conversation, George? Did we decide quarterly?
Actually, I think monthly.
Monthly. I couldn't remember. But they have to send us a report of how many animals were brought in from the county, not any of the municipalities, only from the county, at $108 an animal. And if they reach $25,000 in June, then they're done.
Okay. Yeah, well, it seems to me a memorandum of understanding ought to take care of it,
Good.
because you're putting a ceiling on it, and that isn't a contract, that's not contractual, that's use it up and you're done.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
Yeah, well, I glanced at the one she presented to me and I thought, oh my gosh, that's way outside of anything we need, so
all right,
that was my thoughts. Okay,
I'll get on that.
Mr. Chairman.
In that contract, due to the fact you brought that up,
Okay,
is there any, now I see what they have, that paper you gave me very quickly.
Mhm.
Is that Columbia City or is that county?
Columbia City?
So Columbia City gives them 25,000.
Yes.
Cherubusco 2, South Whitley 15, and we're gonna give them up to 25.
Yes. So basically, we took, during the negotiations, we took the number of animals into how much they're getting paid. Cherubusco and South Whitley are paying, I don't have it here in front of me, but I think I'm right, are paying about $133 per animal. And the city of Columbia City is paying $108 per animal, and ours, when I did the math, ours come out right at the same. So I thought that was really good. If they're gonna give 25,000, and the number of animals was very close to each other, so that's where we came up with $108. Because Columbia City, South Whitley Cherubusco pays a lot more per animal, but they don't have very many animals. So,
Well, that's my next hang up a little bit with this.
okay,
How do we know that there's verification where that animal was, who picked it up, and so on? Now, they say the sheriff's department works with them, is that right? Or do they have an individual?
I think they have an individual. I don't think the sheriff picks up any.
The sheriff did for a period of time, but they have somebody because, okay, it'd be an easier problem if the sheriff picked him up, not that we want the sheriff to, the sheriff wants to pick him up.
Well-
At least then you know who you picked up, what you picked up, and where and when, but, okay.
They
Okay, so
have
we
their
need to
own
have some kind
van.
of verification process.
they have their own band and they have their own people to go get these animals, okay? You have two different things. You have animals they have to go get, but then you also have animals dropped off there. And the key is the address where they come from.
Okay, so the one, they have some kind of form they fill out, say dropped off such and such a date by this person living at this address, which you can verify is in the county. And then the other one, you have another form, we picked up this animal, driver John Smith picked it up on February 1st at County Road 400 and whatever other county road intersection.
Right.
I guess that's, I mean,
That's the
I don't
only
know.
two ways that I know they're gonna get animals.
Yeah.
Self-surrender or go get. And in both cases, there has to be an address. Now, can they fudge on the addresses? I suppose they could if they wanted to, but
But the good thing is if we're the same amount as the city, and it's the same price per head, so to speak, there's really, unless there's a big variance in numbers from one year to the next, there's no incentive for them to really fudge.
No.
And besides, we've got that $25,000 cap on it also.
Right.
That there's
And this is, and they're so thrilled to get anything that I don't see them messing with
But
the
I don't
numbers.
want that 25,000 for them to sit there, oh, good, we got 25,000,
Yeah.
because now what they get, they're going to be, what, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 over what
I mean, I
their
think,
budget
They've
is,
gone
or
from,
their,
they've
yeah,
gone from the red to the black.
right.
They have.
it should kind of track by month. Are they gonna give you quarterly reports or something?
Well, I guess we were just talking about that. I think we're gonna go with monthly.
Monthly
billing-
reports or
billing-
monthly payment?
billing, monthly
Payments.
Monthly
Well,
billing?
the report, we'll pay off the reports, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
We'll pay off the reports, so
Okay.
you get in 10 reports, you
Okay.
owe them $1,080. That's the way I see it.
Okay, monthly report. So it's basically an issue of what they're required to submit in the report then. That's what we need to make particular, so you can make a judgment on whether it's need to be paid or not.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And I would be glad to, if you want me to, I'd be glad to continue on working with Lindsay on how the nuts and bolts work. I don't really care, I can do
That's
that.
fine.
Um,
Are you okay with that?
What I needed to hear from you guys was, how often do you want billed? That's what I needed to hear, because I didn't know what to say. So you guys like monthly then?
Yes.
Monthly, okay, all right. Sounds good to me.
And that's, we can also look at what the history's been. I mean,
Right.
That's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
we've got also.
Yeah, you keep a yearly
Yeah,
and
last
annual
year's
report.
budget.
Right, so you.
Year-end budget,
you know each-
profit and loss statement from last year.
Right.
This year, I'm taking off which Don Rethlake provide the 2013 proposed budget. You know, I think
Right.
there's things they need to look at. They have fundraisers in the tune of $21,500, which is good, but they spent $8,500 to put those fundraisers on. You know, that, if you're gonna do fundraisers now, I don't know where your expenses go. And the reason I mention this, and I think maybe Pam or someone mentioned to us, this new deputy, his first call, he went out and he got bit by a dog. Now, was he reclaiming the dog or what? I think those are things that, you know, be like this guy bumping his head on his car and we get another $4,300.
That's why we got all those workers' comp claims.
We had, not to muddy the issue up, but George was here, we had a county council person who preferred we pay them based on the amount of service they give those animals. And I'm sitting there going, how in the world, how would you have a clue, you know, well, we washed the dog for $2 and we gave it a shot for 10, and I'm like, we just can't, we don't want to get that involved.
Right, well, that's why you put a ceiling on it. like you do.
The other direction, just FYI, the other direction I believe was to consider getting this out of CETA and put it in the commissioner's budget for 2014.
Right, that's what I was just
That
gonna
a-
mention.
It
something else
says
the
up
council-
to 25,000.
Right.
Would anyone at this table like to bet me a stake how close that is to 25,000 today at the end of the year?
Within $1,000. That's my guess.
Oh, you're way too high. It'd be about $1.99.
Well, here's what they need to do. That's, now you bring up a good point. Okay, let's say they get to June and they've got their 25,000. In this agreement, in this memorandum of understanding, they've got to continue to send us those reports.
Right.
We need a full year information.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so we can't, just because we get to 25,000 doesn't mean, it just simply means we're not paying anymore. But
Well, I think you're wise to do it monthly, because then you're gonna be able to track.
You can
and
see it easy.
Yeah, and I mean, there's gotta be, the months have to vary, right? Some months
Sure.
there's gonna be 10 animals,
Absolutely.
some months there's gonna be 20 animals. And if it's the same on a steady line, you're gonna be able to ask them that questions next budget year about why that is.
Right.
Because that doesn't make any sense, so, and you're gonna have some tools, which is what you really want to evaluate it, which is what you need.
When you go down this and look, it's very quickly, and I thought so much of personnel and thing was donated, you know, a lot of people go in and lead dog. $95,000 for that place for personnel is